got to do some songs in between and some station IDs, so we usually get about 15 minutes.
All right, we're on the air. How you doing this morning, folks? This is A-Mad Painter. I got Tim Dollinger here and Copper in the background, and today's special guest has appeared on Sci-Fi Channel television documentary Alien Abduction, the predecessor of Taken by Spielberg, and has also appeared on Ancient Alien History Channel series, author of the e-book Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible. Mr. Carter is an ordained interfaith ministry and received his bachelor's from College of New Rochelle and his master's in divinity degree from Union Theology Seminary in New York City. Reverend Carter is an anti-racist trainer and has been recognized by President Clinton for his efforts. It is our pleasure to introduce Reverend Michael J. Carter. How you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, folks.
I didn't trip too bad.
No, it was fine.
Right on. So let's get started. Mr. Reverend Michael Carter, I guess when you heard doctor, you were like, ooh, I'm a doctor now. That's
I thought I had the wrong station. I had the wrong channel. But no, and you know what? Just call me Mike, guys. Call me Michael.
Mike. Great, yeah. Mike. Where did you get started in your journey? Where did the road start for you?
You mean my theological journey or my journey with... Well, they're kind of one and the same. I had always been... my parents are Baptists. I don't mean they're still on the planet. And, growing up, I was always fascinated with religion. And part of that was going to church because on some level, I know my parents wanted me to, but I was really into it. I was really into the stories, the different ways people worship, as I talk about in the book. And so that was the journey. And I remember very distinctly, being born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. One day, I was in downtown Baltimore. I was walking with a friend, and he said to me, I don't know how we got into it, "You don't believe in UFOs?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Why?" I said, "Because it's not in the Bible." Well, I wish I could remember who that person was and have an email address for them, because I'd have to go back and rephrase that statement.
Yes, most definitely. We are not alone.
No, and probably never have been.
Go on, Thomas.
You think your visits by the ETs have made you grow more spiritually?
I think they have, and let me flesh that out for you. When I talk about spirituality and religion, some people think they're one and the same. I don't think they always are, but they certainly can be. When I'm talking about my spirituality, I'm talking about the cultivation of an inner life, an expanded lifestyle, if you will, asking those existential questions. What am I really here for? What is this journey all about? And I just know, after getting over the fright of these events, which happened for a while, I became more accepting. I became more curious about how other people view life, how other people, religions, different forms of worship, how other people try to get to the same place. But I developed, for instance, more of a consciousness about this planet that we live on. That is the only one we have right now. And so what are we doing to that planet? I used to just think that human beings were the highest evolute. I don't know if that's true now, but also I'm more conscious on being more in tune with nature, with what's going on around me, with my pets, with animals. I mean, it just became a more expanded lifestyle where I was not the center of the universe, and that what I did affected other beings, other events, other circumstances, and I realized that I was part of a larger whole. In this country we talk about individuality a lot. And this is my right to do this, and this is my right to do that. And it was founded on this individuality. Well, yeah, that can work for a minute, But we see now that we are connected. What happens in Greece with the economy affects us here. If there's a tsunami in Japan, it affects us here. Yeah. And so it gave me a more holistic kind of existence, which I just did not have before. Yeah. It was more of an us versus them, or an us and them mentality. It was either or. I've now discovered on a deeper level that life is not either or. It's both and. It's so much easier if it was either or, because things would be very clear. We think in polarities. It's good versus evil. It's this versus that. But a lot of times it's a conglomeration. Life is more gray to me than it is black and white.
Yeah, I agree entirely with that myself.
Yeah.
I wanted to let listeners know that we're on AffinityJams.com. We're simulcasting on FreedomSlips.com, and we have added 5 FM stations. Now we're going out on the airways like the other radio stations are now too, and I'm supposed to welcome Bedford Valley, Kentucky to the network. Thank you for joining in. Bradford Valley.
Bradfordsville.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's because you're not French. You got to say the ville at the end. Ville is a French word. Bradfordsville, Kentucky. Welcome to FreedomSlips.com radio station and Affinity Jams. Very well, very well.
Keep going there, Tim. You got a question, I guess.
Well, I would like to know about this book, Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible. You have this book for sale at Amazon, I do believe.
Amazon and Barnes and Nobles.
Okay. Tell us about the book a little.
Well, actually, it's a continuation of my master's thesis. I got my MDiv degree from Union Theological Seminary in New York City, one of the top seminaries in the country. I'm very proud of that. And my thesis was, what if there was life on other planets? What would that mean for at least us here in the West? What would that mean for the so-called Judeo-Christian religion? And I was very fascinated with the topic, and there had been other writers, not many, prior to me, the Reverend Dr. Barry Downing, a colleague and friend of mine, who kind of started me out on this journey. He wrote a book back in 1968 called UFOs in the Bible. And I was fascinated with the stories in the Bible and other sacred texts that talk about beings from other places. I mean, we talk about angels. The word angel means messenger. It doesn't mean that someone is walking around with wings. But I think that the ancients, for instance, were trying to tell us that these beings could fly. So they were drawn with wings. But anyway, I was just fascinated with this, and I started thinking about, for instance, the story in the Exodus. And you don't have a Jewish religion until the Exodus. And they're going into the so-called Promised Land. And there's a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, which means in the daytime it looks like a cloud is following it, and at night it glows. It's obviously guided by some type of intelligence. At night, when they camp out, the UFO, because it's at least a UFO because it's unidentified, it hovers over them, it stops. When they get up in the morning, it follows them again. And I'm looking at all the stories in the Bible where there's some type of craft or vehicle. The Star of Bethlehem. We know that stars do not stop over mangers and shine lights down on them. If that happened, the whole gravitational pull of the Earth would be affected, and you'd have tidal waves, you'd have earthquakes, all this kind of thing. But I'm saying here is another story of something in the sky that is guiding human beings, and that is in some way affecting their cosmology and the way they look at life and who they worship and what they worship. I was just fascinated with it. And then I started saying, well, what about the modern day reports, whether it's Roswell or UFO reports from fighter pilots and
Phoenix?
Yes, Phoenix Lights. And I'm saying, wow, this has been going on for millennia, and our government has top secret files on something they say doesn't exist. Really?
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's a good point. Actually, my government, because I'm up here in Toronto, Canada, my government has released their UFO files along with many other countries.
Yes.
And it's going to be a race, I feel, almost to see which government will release that information first. But why do you believe that your government in particular is trying to keep a hush-hush on it? What do you think they have to gain from that?
I think they have to gain the status quo remains the same. I mean, let's say, for instance, which was kind of the talk around the Roswell incident and the rumors of President...
Oh, we lost him.
That's all right. Pull him back in. That's all right. He probably pressed the wrong button when he was trying to turn up his volume or something. Just pull him right back in here, yes.
I'm trying.
Great. FreedomSlips.com is our website, along with Affinity Jams. Is that .com or .net?
.com.
Yeah, AffinityJams.com. And we're just trying to pull in. It's not a doctor, but he's a Mr. Reverend Michael Carter, and his book Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible, can be found at Amazon.com. And his book again, Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible, at Amazon.com. Do purchase his books, and you can also visit his website. I believe that is at, let me go here again, MichaelJCarter.com. That's Michael, A-E, MichaelJCarter.com. And we are just trying to pull him back in, but
he went right off the line.
So that's just a connection issue. Not to be worried about that. We'll pull him right back in here. You're more than welcome to play a song, and or if we can just let our listeners know who they're tuned into when we can stay on line.
We'll go ahead and play a song. How about we do it from
is that a swear word in the state?
Surfboard Rock. You know who it's by.
Surfboard Rock by Steve Omar. Go ahead.
There you go. Here, I've talked to the guy several times. I can't remember his name. So we'll be right back, folks.
Back here with...
No.
Oh, we're not on?
Now we are. Sorry, folks. For some reason, the encoder kicked out. We're back now. Go ahead, Tim.
We are joined by Michael Carter, Reverend Michael Carter. His website, MichaelJSCarter.com. And I do apologize for the issues we've been having this morning. Do remember that this is a Sunday morning for the most of us, and most of us are not early birds. We don't get the worm, and sometimes we get the afternoon television shows because that's when we wake up. But that's just how it is. We're having a great time here at FreedomSlips.com, also AffinityJams.com, and I'd like to welcome Bradfordsville, Kentucky, to the airwaves. Thanks a lot for joining us. And Michael, yes, I don't know where we got cut off on the air, but basically...
We got cut off about the government. I think
the government still. We're at the government. Okay, let's talk about these bad boys. What do they have to gain from keeping it a secret?
Again, I think they get to keep the status quo. Even though, you can look around and see whether it's our social issues or whether it's economic issues, things aren't working. Now imagine... even the best intentioned folks. Now we have to deal with UFOs. Now we have to, the economy's in the toilet. We may be getting ready to fight another war in Iran. There's trouble spots all over the world. The unemployment rate is at 9 or 10%. Now we have to say, how do we deal with the fact that we're not alone on the planet? So in some ways I can understand intellectually the secret, but I don't know. I do not think that the American people would panic, or the nations of the earth would panic. You and I were talking when we were off air that Canada has released government files about UFOs. The Latin American countries, Mexico, South American countries, they're way ahead of us on this.
Yeah.
And we're all adults here. We're all adults here. We can work it out.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously a control system in place here that it goes beyond what we see on the surface. We know that Obama is not going to bring out that information. It's not in his best interest if he's to be reelected, and it's just going to be swept under the carpet. We've had guests on who are actually pushing petitions with the We the People website.
Yes,
and Stephen Bassett is his name, and I do believe we're almost at the 7,000 signature mark, but they want 25,000 signatures to consider what the petition is. And you know what? They're making it harder for the public to accept them. They give them 2 minutes on local television shows. Oh, we've seen a UFO sighting. But you know what? They're flares, and forget about it. It's nothing to worry about. Let's move on here. So,
smoke and mirrors.
Well, I tell you, I was talking to someone about this just 2 days ago, and they've been helping promote the book. And they were talking to a young lady who's, they were saying, you got to read Reverend Carter's book. It gives you something to think about. And the woman's response was, I like the book, but I don't know where God fits into all of this, and I just can't handle anymore. It just raises too many questions for me. Now, there's always going to be that element, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly honest answer, and it's a very human answer. But I think that sometimes the questions are more important than the answers, and many times we're not even allowed to ask the questions. One of the things that had driven me away for a while, at least, to the brand of Christianity that I was raised in, was that if you ask the question, you were immediately told that, well, you don't ask that question. That means you don't have faith. You don't ask that question. That's not what we ask. Well, if we're bombing Iraq, what is God doing with the people of Iraq? And here, is God neutral? No, we don't talk about that. And so the questions, you got answers to questions before you even knew what the questions were. And I think that had put off many, 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 many people. And so one of the things about whether it's religion or spirituality or politics or what have you is that I need to be able to inquire. I need to be able to use my intellectual acuity in order to question. Now, you may not have answers to the questions. The answers may scare you, but the point is that in order for us to be holistic beings, we must be able to answer the questions without ridicule, to ask the questions without ridicule, without talking about our lack of faith, without having to pass a litmus test from leaders who are saying, we don't ask that. And I think that is changing as we go into the 21st century. Whether it's about UFOs or anything else, the world has changed. For the better or for the worse, that's up for individuals to decide. But the world has changed, and so the old paradigms don't work anymore. That scares people. But there's a whole other side to this. It's like a woman having a baby. All the birth pangs, all the pain, all the trauma. I don't know. I'm a man. I haven't had a baby. I watched my wife. I mean, it was scary. It was exhilarating. It was exciting. But it was all worth it when that child came out, when my daughter was born. Well, in some ways, our planet is going through birth pangs of a new era. And yes, for those who can't go there, it's a traumatizing experience.
Yeah. I myself look for answers everywhere and didn't make assumptions on my own, about things.
Yeah.
I mean, I found that I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person.
Yes, I've heard many people describe themselves that way.
Could you tell us what you think of the Bible in general?
It's a great question. It's a complicated question. For me, the Bible is many things. For people of color, specifically African American, it was used as a way to help us overcome, or at least to deal with American apartheid. For gay brothers and sisters, it's a way to say it can be used to say that the Creator made every one of us equally, and so for feminists, it can be used to argue for a more holistic and more respectful view of the feminine. For segregationists, it was used to say that if God wanted the races together, he'd have created together, and of course God being he. So it's many things to many people. I feel that it is a book that is written by human beings who are trying to tell a story. The stories there are full of promise, are full of hope. There's stories there that can defy belief. It's many things to many people, and it's been used in many, many, many ways. But I do say one of the things the Bible is, in my view, it does not take away from it being a sacred text for people, at least in my mind, but it does talk about. For me, when I read the book of Ezekiel, and he's talking about this craft that comes to him, I'm saying these people are coming from elsewhere. When I read the story of the Exodus, of the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, when I read the Bible about, and in the New Testament it talks about this star that heralds the birth of this human being, or God, if you will, who has changed the course of human history, and we can go on and on and on. I'm sure we will in the time allotted. That this book is telling us that our planet has been visited by other intelligent life forms who were at times mistaken for gods, but of course they would be. Their technology was far superior to that of the day. But let me give you an instance. In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22, Isaiah is telling us that the earth is round. Okay, the pericope reads that the earth, that God sits on the sphere of the earth. His footstool is the sphere of the earth. How did this man know that the earth was round? Yeah. I was taught that people didn't know the earth was round until after Columbus. So here is this man, 5,000 to 8,000 years ago, he's telling us that the earth is round. In Exodus 33, verse 11, it says, God spoke to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. But in Exodus 33:20, it says, no man can see God and live. Well, which is it? And I'm not saying that to poo-poo the Bible, if you will, but I'm saying these are errors that human beings make. So here we have contradictory statements. If you read Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, you have two different creation stories. Two different creation stories. Pick up your Bibles now, pick them up or afterwards. Genesis 1 and 2 tell two different stories. So if it was written by a god, then someone took the wrong dictation. If we read in the Bible 2 Kings chapter 19, if you read 2 Kings chapter 19, and if you read Isaiah chapter 37, these words are word for word identical. What does that mean? These books were written hundreds of years apart. How is it that whoever wrote the book it has the exact same words from a book that was written about 800 years prior? If you read the book of Numbers, this God is telling Moses to stone a man to death because the man had upset Yahweh. Okay, we think of God as love. We think of God as compassion. Well, this God is telling Moses to stone a person to death. If you read Samuel's first chapter, Yahweh gives an entire town hemorrhoids. 1 Samuel chapter 5, verses 8 and 9. An angel of the Lord comes to this town and gives everybody hemorrhoids. Now, you have to, and this is in the Bible, so I'm not making this stuff up. So now, does that take away from the deep spirituality or religious feelings that can be found in the Bible? No. But what it does say to me is that perhaps this Yahweh is not a god, but perhaps an extraterrestrial who is mistaken for a god and who has all the human attributes, anger, temper tantrums. I mean, you got to be pretty angry to say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start a flood and start the whole son of a gun all over again. That's anger.
Yeah, it does seem strange.
That's anger.
In the Old Testament, God ruled with an iron fist.
Well, yeah, but I mean to have to. So all I'm saying is to just to be. Oh, you can say, Michael, this is a bunch of hooey. That's fine, but at least consider it. At least consider it. When Jesus comes for the Second Testament, it's almost like he's talking about a different God altogether.
Yeah.
You see, and so again, they just raise questions. Yahweh he's overly concerned with circumcision. He's overly concerned with circumcision, and he's overly concerned, in my view, of how pure your bloodlines are. You know, the Jews weren't supposed to mix with this people and that people and what have you. But if you notice, all these people who meet these angels, whether it's Mary, the mother of Jesus, or Miriam, as she's called, whether it's John the Baptist's wife or Samson's mother, they all get pregnant. They don't get pregnant the old-fashioned way. They meet an angel, and the next thing you know, they're pregnant.
Yeah.
These are very interesting stories. What maybe it's something about genetics that's going on here.
Do you? I'd like to throw this in here because Yahweh. I just learned recently where Yahweh was derived from. Are you familiar with where the word Yahweh came from?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, Jordan Maxwell, who will be on the show here in 11 days at freedomslips.com, I think he refers the Yahweh as being a descriptive word. It's not necessarily a word of, let's say, God or a God.
Right.
It's a descriptive word.
That I'm familiar with.
Okay,
Right.
and he compares it to the pressure built up in a hose, let's say. If you twisted the end and you clamped it and you turned the hose on, and all that pressure was able to build up, and you finally release that is the expression of what Yahweh is, the release of that pressure, and the enormity of that bang is Yahweh, and there's nothing more powerful than that. And he will explain that when he comes on, but that's what he means, and it has to do with the male anatomy, if you understand what I mean. And there's all these hidden meanings to words that we're not really sure where they came from, why they're there, but Mr. Jordan Maxwell will be with us and explain that in further detail. But that's where I learned from what Yahweh...
Well, it's interesting. I know that the Jews sometimes, I may be more orthodox, maybe reform.
Caller 613, just hold on there,
okay.
Right? Thanks.
Yes.
I'd like to throw this in here because Yahweh... Caller, can you just turn off the your
radio in the background?
Thanks.
Go ahead.
There we go.
Yeah, how about this, caller? What's on your mind today?
Well, no, it's just what you're saying there about pregnancy and all that shit. Sorry, all that stuff. In my hometown, everyone. Like, I'm not sure if they don't see the seriousness in it anymore, but there's like 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds here getting pregnant, and I don't know, like, you were saying something about God there, and
what are
everything.
What are they doing to the kids in the media? They're telling them they need to wear tighter clothes, skimpier clothes, impress
them. Show more skin, yeah.
Exactly.
Like, look at Halloween. Halloween's a perfect day or a perfect example.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Well, I don't know, like, just talking about skimpy clothes and shit like that. And
no swearing.
Pregnancy.
Thank you. But pregnancy and having to do with why you think people are becoming pregnant, women at younger ages, and that's the question you have?
Yeah.
Greatly appreciate that. All right.
It's very interesting. Thank you, caller. It's very interesting, and I hear what you're saying, too, about our younger people. I mean, I'm 55. It would be hard to grow up as a youngster now, and then when I was coming up, but that's also another show. Well, what was interesting, though, is, and I was trying to touch on the genetic piece about, and all these people are like Supermen, once they're, because see, if your mother is human and your dad is an angel or a god, then you're really not fully human, and one could argue that with Jesus. But remember, the word virgin in Hebrew meant young girl, Alma, A-L-M-A. So, I mean, historians and theologians, Mary, Jesus' mother, may have been 14, 15, 16 when she was with child. St. Jerome translated, when he was translating the Bible to Greek, he translated virgin as meaning one who did not have sex. But the word alma in Hebrew just means young girl. So now you're talking about was Mary a virgin? Now we're talking about, because the Bible says Jesus had brothers and sisters. Did Mary make love the old-fashioned way and have her kids? We don't know. But if you look at the gospel story, she's visited by an angel. Her husband, Joseph, first decides he doesn't want to be with her. And because, if my wife came home today and told me she saw an angel and now she's pregnant, I'd have some problems with that. But I have serious problems with that. But my point being is just that these stories are rich and they're full of innuendo and implications and what have you. People argue with me because sometimes they think I'm tearing the Bible apart or what have you. I can still keep my faith tradition and still entertain these stories. But I may not have as many answers as I got when I was in Sunday school, but that's okay. I'm not in Sunday school anymore. And as Paul says, when I was a child, I thought like a child and what have you. But now I'm an adult. And so all I'm trying to get people to do is to just say, what if? It's like a writer, right? What if?
Yeah. I personally, I believe the Bible has had man's fingers involved in it too many times myself.
Yes.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
What were you going to say there, Tim?
Actually, the caller that has called in, area code 613, just any more questions?
No, I'm just listening, basically.
Great. Okay. Well, are you familiar with the area 613? I believe that is right beside me here in Toronto, Canada.
Yep, that's actually basically where I am. I'm like 3 hours away.
Okay,
Wow.
okay, yeah. You're to the east. I've got, because you're calling in here on Skype, and I've got your number plugged in here because I say, man, that number's awfully familiar. So I'm just
I've called in before on other shows. So.
That's cool. Well, I'm Tim Dalger. I'm a host here at Phenomenal ETs, and I'm just here in Durham, so I'm not that far from you. So that's pretty cool that we got another Canadian head on board. So really,
my buddy there, Louisville 420, he's actually down in the States. He listens to you as well there. He's the one that actually got me into you listening. So he showed me your site there, and I'm like, wow, they actually talk about some pretty cool things, interesting things, answers a lot of my questions. So.
That's cool. Feel free to stay on the line if you will, or you can join us at freedomslips.com and tune in there. You're more than welcome to stand by. And like I said, we've got Reverend Carter Michael Carter. You could say him both ways. I'm sure there's a Carter Michael out there somewhere.
Listen, I've been called worse. I've been called worse. I'll take it.
All right.
Alrighty, well, I'll just tune into your radio show there, and I'll listen in, and if anything pops up, I'll call back again.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, thank you.
That's very cool. Not too far away from me, the gentleman is. That's pretty cool.
The other thing I'll say very quickly, guys, is that, also in the Hebrew religion, that the word of God is not, the name of God, whatever that is not mentioned. You're not even supposed to utter it. And so, whatever the translation was, some people call Jehovah, some people say Yahweh, but technically, that is the name that is given. But even if we knew the correct name, one is not even supposed to utter. The word is so holy. The name is so holy and powerful. And when Moses asks Yahweh, when he says, you need to go to Pharaoh, and I'm going to use you to liberate my people, when Moses asks, who should I say sent me? There's not a name given. It's Asher, Esher, Asher, which means tell them I am that I am has sent you.
Yes. Good point.
Yes.
We've got more questions rolling in here, and we've come up with a few of our own here, me and Thomas, butting our heads together. No, I want to ask this question. No, I want to ask... we're jumping on each other.
You're doing great, Tim.
Well, I actually, I just want to say I just looked up what Yahweh was, and he just describes it exactly. What I just pulled up. Many theories regarded conclusive, but it's I am who I am, or I am that I am.
Yeah.
And the Hebrew meaning is he brings into existence whatever exists.
You mean you were going to trust Google over a reverend?
Oh, heck no.
Listen, sometimes you may have to.
I would really like to understand your studies in UFOs and ET realm. Has it caused any problems for you being a pastor? Have you ever ran into some blockades, if you will?
Yeah, I have. And more at the beginning, which was maybe back in the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, I do keep them separate in the sense of like the congregation that I have now. Well, I'm starting a congregation, working at a congregation. If it comes up, I will bring it up. If someone says, I just saw you on the History Channel, I just bought your book, but it's not, I don't preach it from a pulpit.
Okay.
Like I said, some people have a problem with it, but nothing, not to play it down, but nothing. I mean, we can agree to disagree. But it's not something I don't have like a UFO church or anything like that. But this is something I'm interested in. I have my master's degree. I have some expertise there. I know a little bit of some biblical languages and words here and there, and so I can go off and do that. But it's not something I present as. It's not that much part of my identity as a minister. In the sense,
because we haven't as a whole society have accepted ETs in our life. But I assure you, when we do, and the time will come, you'll start preaching that. I promise you that, because it will be accepted by the masses, or at least should be, and then it would be a good time to fill in people with the truth about these, distant cousins.
Because I think that there are going to be a lot of questions for religion. There's going to be a lot of questions for religious people. No matter what denomination or what stripe, they're going to say, well, now this throws a monkey wrench into everything, because now we're not the highest evolute. Do ETs believe in a savior? Do they even need a savior? Their concept of a creator, do they even have a concept of one? These are the kind of questions that will come up. And again, we may not have answers for them, but sometimes the answer, we can speculate, but the questions are what, we have to live the questions, I believe.
Yeah, experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very well, very well.
Do you know anything about this theory of Planet X coming into the solar system by chance?
I used to read a lot about it. Dr. Zecharia Sitchin, who really kind of was the father of the ancient astronaut theory. I mean, some people would say Eric Van Donigen. They both have had a great hand in it. Well, he talks about the planet Nibiru coming in the not-too-distant future, and then Anunnaki. It's really a spaceship instead of a planet. But I hear about it. I've read up on it, and my own attitude has been, well, we'll see what we're going to see. I mean, we've been speculating for years what that is. Is it a planet? Is it the Anunnaki who are here that maybe were talked about in religious texts? Is it really a spaceship? Is it a planet? I mean, nobody knows. Nobody knows. But
in the scripture, in the scriptures, it refers to wormwood.
Yes, it does. In the book of Revelation,
could be that.
It could be, but it could be a lot of things.
Yeah,
it could be.
I was asked from the chat room or in private, I am to ask about that.
Yeah.
I know it's a little off the subject.
No, it's not actually. I mean, all this stuff is fair game. I mean, because there's a lot of things going on that. You can point to say, well, see, Revelation talks about that, and you can point to it and say, well, this has been happening. Look at the weather patterns. We've had, in the mountains of western North Carolina, it's been springtime since October.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think there's some parts of Europe who experience severe climate change. Well, there's a passage in the book of Revelations that I don't have in offhand, but it talks about in the last days, you won't be able to tell the seasons apart. Well, does that mean we're in the last days of Revelation, or does that mean that this is a cycle that happens before? We won't know. And for those who do believe, no amount of evidence is necessary. And for those who don't believe, no amount of evidence is going to be enough.
Yeah,
so all one can do is to fulfill. Yeah. That's why I don't get into arguments or heavy discussions about, religion and what have you, because, people fight wars over this stuff. And there comes a time, do you want to be right or do you want to be at peace? Because, we just don't know.
Okay, we're going to take a station break at this point and play a tune, and so we can all get us a cup of coffee, and we'll be right back, folks. So stay tuned.
And
we're back on air.
All right.
Welcome back, people. Sorry the break was so long. I didn't notice how long both them songs were until I had stuck them in.
Well, I had to go to the store and grab some loaf of bread, so this is okay for me.
I'm still getting used to this Sam's thing, so.
That's great. That's great. All right.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Michael.
Let's say it together. Welcome back. We're just having fun.
Welcome back.
We're having fun. Carter. Welcome back, Carter.
Welcome back.
Mr. Reverend Michael Carter, his website, michaeljscarter.com. His book, Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible. You can find that Kindle edition on Amazon.com. And you also said at Barnes & Noble they have the
Nook. They have a Nook edition, ebook.
Oh,
if you have a Nook instead of a Kindle, you can still purchase the book on at Barnes & Noble. I think it's $4.99.
Great. All right. And
it's an excellent book. I read it.
Oh, thank you.
I sat down and read it this last week, and it was I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
First book I've read in a while too, since the computer.
Yeah. I got to get used to reading an ebook. I don't have a Kindle yet or a Nook. Maybe payday I'll get one. And so, in some ways, I can't even read my own book. I still have the hard copies of it, the old hard copies. But yeah, I can't even read my own book until I break down and spend $200 on a Kindle Fire. Yeah.
Very good, Mike. I've got a question about the Nephilim, if you want to go there.
Yes, the Nephilim, yes.
Yes. So why does Genesis refer to the Nephilim as sons of gods?
Well, because now again, the Nephilim, coming from the Hebrew word Nephal, Nephal, it's actually translated. It's translated two ways. It's translated those who came down, or those who have fallen. And so again, if we take the concept that these are gods because of their technology, because of the powers that they have, then they are called the sons of God. And if you read the rest of Genesis 6, it talks about them being giants on the earth in those days, which were the Nephilim, and that they mated with earth women and created offspring who were men of renown, as some translations say. But they were offspring. And here we have again, my dad is an astronaut from another star system. My mother is an earthling, an earth woman, and these are men of renown, men of superhuman powers. But they've also been translated as those who were cast off from heaven. If you read the book of Enoch, it will give you a much more elaborative, descriptive view of the Nephilim, because the Nephilim were the ones, there were like 200 of them. They were kicked out of heaven, and so they come to earth, and they teach earthlings how to work with metals, how to work with astrology, teaching them occult, for lack of a better word, if you will, or metaphysical knowledge. Now, of course, they're called evil because of that. I don't subscribe that they were evil, but they certainly were not from this planet. And so they teach how do you make weapons. They teach you about how do you make jewelry and metals, teaching various languages and those types of things. The Book of Enoch is a great addendum to Genesis 6. I mean, you get a whole history of these beings who, again, are not from this world. They came down from someplace else.
Are these what are referred to as the fallen ones?
Yes, they've been referred to as the fallen ones. They've been referred to as the watchers. Again, the Book of Enoch says that there were 16 of them. 200 of them. Now remember, the Book of Enoch was also taken out of the Bible because of some of the information that that was given. And remember, many of the books were taken out of the Bible. So, there was a political process that says which ones stay and which ones don't stay.
Yeah,
it gets even more intriguing, doesn't it?
I got tongue-tied there.
Certain books were not.
I got tongue-tied there.
You know what? I was on mute. I was talking, and I'm like, how come Matt is cutting me off here? I'm talking here. But that's what happens in Skype when you press the mute button. You're not sure that you're muted, and you forget it sometimes because you don't want to interrupt with a sip of coffee or something. So, but no, I greatly appreciate you joining us. And it's some pretty intriguing information that you're bringing us, and it's definitely an eye opener for me because I am not privy.
Yeah, and again, I just want to say, go pick up a Bible. Don't take my word for it. Go pick up a Bible. Google some of this stuff. But it's very, very fascinating. And again, it's scary to some people because and that's not a value judgment. But if you were taught one way all your life, and here you get this new information, it can be scary. It can make the ground move underneath your feet. You can have the same reaction that my colleague's girlfriend had. I like this book, but I don't want to read any more about it. I don't know where God. It's changing my whole concept about. And
yes,
yeah, it's okay.
Shakes your world up.
People are afraid of change.
Yeah, and I am too. Going through personal changes in my life now, and I won't say so much. It jolts you, and that's the thing. And sometimes you have to bring people along. And I don't mean it in a hierarchy, like, hey, I know everything and you don't. It's just that changes. I mean, when I first heard this stuff, man, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And then the more I discover, but see, I'm the type of person that I will go on my own and look and read and study. And then, and that's what I did.
That's what I encourage everybody to do.
Yeah.
I got a follow-up question to the one about the Fallens. The same guy who is Louisville 420 in our chat room, he says that being a one-third of heaven, the 200, and it's formed in a question. He was wondering if that was a number.
In all seriousness, I don't know. I don't know.
So I don't
know how many people are in heaven or what have you, but I do know they specifically mentioned the number 200. But I tell you, I'll tell the caller, great question. And if you can just go to the library or just go to a Barnes & Nobles and pick up the Book of Enoch. It was rediscovered in Ethiopia. And I think it's the turn of the century. I could be wrong about that. In the 1880s. And you read that book, and it will give you a much deeper history of some of the stuff that's going on in the Book of Genesis. Yes. It's almost like the whole book gives you a whole synopsis of, well, not even a synopsis, a deep understanding of Genesis 6, which is about the sons of God made it with the daughters of men. Genesis doesn't get into any more detail. Okay. The Book of Enoch does. And remember, Enoch was a person. Enoch, they said, walked with God. And then God took him up. What does that mean? He took him up in a ship. All of a sudden, this man wasn't there.
Yeah.
Same thing we see happen with Elijah. Elijah gets in a ship with a flying chariot, and boom, he's gone.
Well, you know what? You just hit the nail on the head right there, because that was my question, and I'm surprised you mentioned Elijah. Yeah. What did the Bible say about UFOs and Elijah? Let's get into that.
Well, basically, Elijah talks about, and the book of Ezekiel talks about flying chariots. And Ezekiel, which is not your question, talks about seeing this machine. There's a beautiful book called The Spaceships of Ezekiel by Joseph, Joseph Blumrich, Blumrich. And he was a NASA scientist. He was a NASA engineer. And he took the description in Ezekiel. I'll get to Elijah in a minute. He took the description in Ezekiel, and he rebuilt what he thought Ezekiel described. It's a spaceship. Of course, you know, Elisha and Elijah, Ezekiel and Elijah, they're major prophets in the Hebrew canon. And Elijah gets taken away in a whirlwind in chariots, fiery chariots, which I think was their way of saying UFO. I mean, they're not going to say unidentified flying saucer.
Yeah.
They're not going to say, you know, they're not going to keep saying the pillar of cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night. Sometimes they say clouds.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll say, when Jesus comes again, when Jesus is taken away after the resurrection, he's taken up into a cloud.
Yeah.
He's taken up into a cloud.
There were definitely different wording as they are today. And
and some UFOs hide in clouds in modern day times. Some UFOs, the vapor trails look like clouds. But they're talking about the technology of their day. So when they say Elijah goes up in a fiery chariot, they could be saying...
The chariot being just UFO. Some kind of vehicle.
But exactly. But what they are saying is that he's flying. He is flying. He is not, you know...
and how do people fly today?
He didn't take a cab.
And how do people fly? And how do people fly today?
They fly in planes.
In spacecraft.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, angels are messengers. Remember the Greek word angelos. Angels are messengers. And ancients again, they just drew wings there. It's not like the movie Michael with John Travolta. You know what I mean?
Oh yes.
I mean, they're just saying that these beings had the ability to fly. They're not saying that they have angels they have wings on their backs.
You know what? You're just going right to where I want to go, and you just spoke about the angels there, John Travolta. What is your view of angels?
I think that they're messengers. I don't take, and I'm not. And here, let me be clear to my viewers. I mean, viewers to listeners and viewers. I'm not talking about New Age in a derogatory sense, because New Age is really not new. The ancient ancestors, prophets and seers, men and women, they knew this stuff that we're just finding out about, quantum physics and what have you. They didn't use the same words we did. That's my caveat. I think that they are messengers. Now, some people will say, Michael, angels are different from extraterrestrials. They may be. But I can't tell you that I've seen an angel. But I can tell you that I've seen messengers. And so I think that they are just that. They are messengers from beyond. I mean, for lack of a better word. And so I know people who say, you know, there's schools about angels and angelology, and there are angels mentioned in the Bible and in the First Testament, which people call the Old Testament. There's Raphael. There's Michael, for which I'm named, messenger of God. There's Raphael. There are other names, because the suffix El means of God in Hebrew. So any name that you see El, Raphael, Michael, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm thinking that those folks are beings from another world. I don't think they're just, they come down and they sing Kumbaya and they have wings. I mean, they're singing more than Kumbaya, because every time these angels touch a woman in the Bible, she's pregnant. I mean, it's a good job, isn't it? I came to bring you a message. And that's you're I'm being sacrilegious, but I'm just saying. And now you're
heck
pregnant.
Of a message, huh?
Yeah, you're pregnant now. You have been chosen by God. You have been chosen, and so there you have it. The Father is not human. The Mother is chosen. They have powers. Jesus has these powers. Samson has these powers, the strength. You see what I'm saying? And so the angels, once they come and visit you, your world is really changed, especially if you're a woman.
Really?
Because your sons, because it's always guys, your sons are going to be revolutionary. They're going to go against the status quo. They're going to be very political. I mean, we have this thing about Jesus as he was just a nice man, and he went to preach, and he went to pray, and he healed the sick. Well, Rome thought that he was much more than that because they crucified him, and crucifixion was the death reserved for political prisoners.
Right. Tim's fixing to go, and he would like to say goodbye to you.
Oh, yeah, okay, brother.
Thanks. Well, you know what? I didn't know. She got a list of to-dos for me, so I really got to hit the road. I do apologize for that.
It's okay.
Michael, I greatly appreciate you joining us. Like I said, your book, Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible, and our guest, Reverend Michael Carter. Greatly appreciate you joining us. Your website, michaelcarter.com. And thanks a lot, gentlemen, for having me. And I will dip and look forward to hearing the archive of the show because I always get a better perspective if I listen to it a second time. And I think it's going to be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys.
And
I just want to tell our listeners one more time, if I could. The website is michaeljscarter.com. And, you know, if you want to buy the book, you got to go to the right website, michaeljscarter.com.
I'm posting it in the chat rooms now for you.
I appreciate it.
And yeah, I was just going to say the same thing when
you know,
I don't blame you for jumping in there that quick.
Yeah.
I got a question for you about aliens. That are the Greys and reptilians evil?
Now, okay. Want to be clear.
Yeah.
There are different species of Greys. The Greys I encountered, and I talk about them in my book, I did not feel anything evil from them. But remember, because we don't want to do intergalactic racism here, they're different species of Greys. And so I must say that I have not experienced them as such. I did have an experience with a reptilian, almost gave me a heart attack. I cannot say they were evil. I can just say that I've never seen something that looked like that on two legs. And that's all I can say. I don't want to start labeling evil or not. I know my more fundamentalistic brothers and sisters or more evangelical brothers and sisters who do subscribe to UFOs, because when I started this work, they didn't, or at least the ones I had encountered, have said, well, they're Greys, they're evil, the reptilians are evil, the more angelic-looking ones called the Swedes, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed extraterrestrials, they're the benevolent ones. I'm always leery of saying that because we live in a very color-conscious society.
I hear that.
You know, I don't want to say, well, they're blonde, blue-eyed, so they must be sweet, and the little bald-headed Greys must be evil. From my experience, I have not experienced that. There are some people who don't want to violate their belief system, but I just don't want to paint with a broad brush. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, that's a good answer. I agree with it entirely. I have another question from the chat room. They would like to know about the shiny faces of Moses and Jesus.
I attributed that with Moses, great questions. These people are on it. To the radiation. With Moses, he comes down from Mount Horeb, or people call it Mount Sinai, and he's up there with Yahweh, and from the way I read that story, his face is shining because of radiation. With Jesus, with the transfiguration, he's not up. Well, they're camping out on a mountain which is interesting because at the transfiguration, there's Elijah and Moses who have been dead for several hundred years, maybe even 1,000 years, and yet the disciples see them with Jesus. I account for that as just being around the intense energy that these extraterrestrials have. I practice Reiki healing, and after I started having my encounters, after I came back from the shrink, because I thought I was losing my mind, after I started having my encounters, this energy that I have got really, really, really more intense. Sometimes I'll joke around and call it space Reiki, but it's a hands-on healing technique. But anyway, when I do it, especially if I have several clients a day, when I'm out in the street, people will ask me, were you in Florida? Were you at the beach? Because your face is glowing. And I say, no, I wasn't, but it's from the energy. So that's why I attributed the Transfiguration. Now, I don't know if there was a ship involved there or what have you. The disciples don't know either. They just know they looked up, and there's Jesus standing with, Elijah and John the Baptist. And so I say again that is probably just from the energy, but definitely with Moses coming down from that mountain, because he's the only one up there. And he comes down with the tablets, and his face is shining. His whole countenance is the word they use.
Didn't he have to wear a veil after that, or a covering over his face?
I heard that he did, yes. I heard that he did. I've heard that he did. I don't know if it actually says that, but they do just say that his countenance was glowing.
Wow, this is interesting.
Yeah.
You think Yahweh's emotions are all too human?
Yeah, I think Yahweh is definitely an astronaut. I think if you're going to get people hemorrhoids, I mean, that's really going a little far. If you're going to drown the whole planet and start all over again, if you're going to have people stoned, it just seems to me a very different deity than Jesus is talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be all powerful and all, I mean, and also, he sends his messengers, angels down to Sodom and Gomorrah, because he wants them to find out what's going on down there. Well, if you're omnipotent and omniscient and omnipresent, you don't have to send any messengers. You know what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. So if I'm all powerful, this deity, I don't have to say, listen, Brad, Jane, would you go down there to Sodom and Gomorrah and report back to me? Let me know what's going on. Would you get back to me? No, I know what's going on.
Yeah, they already have the knowledge.
Yeah.
All right, I was also asked to ask you about my father has many mansions. Does this mean many planets?
That's what I thought. I mean, I'm guessing like you are, but that's what I think it is. Definitely.
Yeah, that's my interpretation of
definitely. Definitely. There are many mansions.
It also says in the Bible, if I'm not mistaken, that the devil sweeps a third of the stars away with his tail. I take that to be that
I haven't seen that.
About a third of them were populated.
Well, I can't comment on that one.
Yeah.
Can't comment on that one. But, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I don't know about it, so I don't want to comment on that. Yeah. But, it's all open to interpretation, and you and I can read the same passage and see things that are there or see things that aren't, and doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It just means that what we see. But I'll give an example. And this is just to get you to think a little bit, and you probably already have. The Bible, the New Testament, anyway, is translated into Greek. Okay, it's Greek, and but Jesus spoke Aramaic and Hebrew.
Right.
So just look at what's lost in translation, and if you don't know any biblical languages, the Bible's very different. For instance, there's a passage in the Bible that says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. In Aramaic, because we know Jesus at least spoke two languages, probably more, it says it is easier for a rope to go through the eye of a needle. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Right, yeah.
The imagery makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course the camel's not going to go through, but in Aramaic it's easier. In Aramaic, the Lord's Prayer is very different as well, but it's not lead us not into temptation in Aramaic, it's let us not wander into temptation, because the question becomes, why would someone who loves me, wants to protect me, is always with me, why would they deliberately lead me into temptation? Now, some people would say, well, because they're there to test you. Well, okay. But there's another way to look at it as well, and is to ask that question. So those are just two examples. But, and you can pick up an Aramaic Bible. It's called the Peshitta.
Yeah, I wish I'd spoke.
You can pick one up. You can pick one up. I mean, you can pick one up at any Barnes & Nobles. You can pick up an Aramaic book on the Lord's Prayer and see the many different translations of the Lord's Prayer from Aramaic. Not from Greek, because he didn't speak Greek.
Yeah.
So if he did, we would have to translate it.
We've been joined by one of our close associates with freedomslips.com, W. Weisenberg. I think he has a question. He's a real intelligent man.
Sure.
Yeah, I got a quick, well, I don't know even if it's quick, but let's just assume that the entities that's discussed in the Bible are actually extraterrestrials.
Yes.
And they presented themselves, I don't know if they would, you can argue they presented themselves as some sort of gods, or the people just interpreted them as gods. But there's a lot of, hints that they were kind of controlling things, and they were, either helping or hurting or whatever, but there was a lot of control throughout the whole process. Do you have any, I don't know, your own opinions on why they stopped?
Great question. Well, first of all, thank you for that question. Oh God, where's my Bible? Anyway, it's upstairs now. My wife just came in so I moved to another room. Maybe I can go back and get it. But remember, there's a scene in Acts where people look at Paul, and I forget the context, but he's, they think he's Egyptian, which is also interesting. But they bow down to him, and he tells them to rise. I'm not one of the gods. So, I just find that interesting because people mistook these beings for gods. I don't know why I don't think they stopped. I think that just we've been told that they're not here. If you pick up any book, they're here. They're visiting. What is the mission? We don't know. But if you're on a mission, do you have time to convince everybody that, hey, listen, I'm not a god, da-da-da. And I'm not saying there weren't extraterrestrials who had they didn't have the most benevolent agenda. Because some people have different agendas. But if I'm on a mission, I don't have time to keep telling you not to do this, not to do that. That's what those 10 Commandments were for. And they were just for the Hebrew people. Because the Hebrew people weren't practicing that with anybody else. That's why they went into the land and took folks' land in the name of Yahweh. But my speculation is this. We have a mission to do here. And we have to do it. And we don't have time to keep telling people, don't do this, don't do that. That's the only thing I can come up with. Again, I don't believe that all extraterrestrials are here to save us. I believe that in a lot of ways we have to save ourselves as far as what we do to each other as human beings on this planet and the planet itself. But there were definitely some beings here who are here to help, and some who are here to cause mischief. And a great book that will help you go into that more, sir, is called The Gods of Eden by William Bramley. It's a great book. It's called The Gods of Eden. And he talks about this. And he even talks about the religions of Jesus and extraterrestrial people who've come here, and the religion of extraterrestrials who have come here that may not have had our best interests in mind. It's a great book. It's a great book.
Well, it's kind of obvious that they're not here to help. It doesn't mean that they're here to hurt, but it's obvious they're not here to help. Look around. If they were here to help, if they're here to help, they failed. We don't need their help.
I disagree with that. The people that I encountered helped me, and see, the thing is that if you look around, we can't blame this mess on them. This is our mess.
Again, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm saying it is our mess. If they're here to actually help us to get out of our mess, they are failing miserably.
Well, are they failing? Or are we failing to heed what some of them have to say? And that's a rhetorical question. But I don't want to say they, because there's so many different kinds and species. So again, which ones are you talking about? And so when I look around, and it's not right or wrong, this is what you see. I look around and I don't see that anybody's failing but human beings. And that this attitude that someone's going to have to come help us, it's simply, at least in some overt way, that, oh my God, they came and they saved us. Maybe they save us, or maybe they help us by sending people like Dr. King or Dorothy Day or the other great male and female sages and wise people along the way, or Jesus. Maybe they come to help us that way. But even that way, we still have to have some accountability. And so I see human beings making a mess of this, not anybody else.
Oh,
but anyway, I thank you for thank you for that question.
Yeah, we all agree that the human race is what's caused this problem we have in this world.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example, guys.
I think it's got to come from us, too, to fix it.
I'm a diversity officer at a hospital. Okay, I was a chaplain, and they gave me this job. And now we work with we work with gay folk, we work with people of color, we work with poor white folks, we work with everybody at this hospital. And sometimes I get complaints from people who are saying, we got generational diversity. He doesn't like me because I'm black, Michael. He doesn't like me because I'm gay. He doesn't like me because I'm white. And some of those things may be true. I'm not saying that's not true. But then when I peel the onion a little more, okay, what's your work record like? Have you been written up for anything? Do you get here on time? Well, sometimes I do, sometimes. Okay, what's your attitude like when you come to work? I peel the onion, and I find out that it's not so much about what the hospital is doing per se, it's about their accountability as well. You can't say that someone is treating you unfairly, and it does happen, without saying, well, what do I contribute to it?
Yeah, I hear that.
And so, in other words, you're not a victim. In other words, and yes, there's racism, and there's anti-gay stuff, and there's anti-poor, that's all there. But we go there so easily that I'm trying to say, what is and if you don't have any culpability, more power to you, let's pursue this. But where my boss treats me badly, tell me why. Well, A, B, C, D. Okay, let's work with that. Some of that's questionable. What do you do? Do you get to work all the time? Well, sometimes. Have you ever been written up for anything? Well, yeah, once I was. Oh, okay, now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. Now we're going somewhere. And it doesn't make them wrong, but it is, what is your accountability? And we are so into blaming other people and other things that we don't look at ourselves.
Well, it's not just the blame either. It's also, I mean, my perspective on it is just there's a whole lot of people out there that don't want to have to blame themselves. They don't want to have the accountability, so they say, oh, well, everybody says that there's an alien that's going to come and save us all, and so I don't have to do anything.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. And I had to get away from that. I mean, I was in a support group, and I went to a couple shrinks. I mean, my whole world was shattered because this started happening to me. And I mean, I go into it or not, but I went to a support group. I met people who had the same experiences I had and some who didn't. But one of the reasons I had to get out of there is because I knew that now that this was happening to me, I knew I had to get up and brush my teeth in the morning and go to work the next day. And there were some people who could, I mean, you know, yes, it's probably the most fantastic thing that's ever happened, but it got to be, I'm not accountable anymore. Someone's going to come save me. I'm special because this happened or what have you. And I think that's dangerous. I think that is dangerous. Not so much from a self-destructive point of view, which it could lead to, but that you're not in on your life. You're not in on your life. You're kind of observing your life from a distance. But I agree with you, and I didn't mean to imply that you would blame that you were saying that, because I know that's not what you were saying. But I just wanted to get in there that
you have to watch. Deeper. You have to watch WH. He can twist the question around pretty good.
I wouldn't do such a thing.
No, I meant the way you ask it. You do it in a certain way, and it can confuse some people.
Yeah, it's a great question,
but it was a great question. I have another one here from the chat room that someone wanted to know about your Ancient Alien show, and if you're going to be on again.
Well, no, not that I know of. I got a call one day from Hollywood. I know it sounds like a story. I was sitting at work, and I got a call from Prometheus Productions, and they said, we have your book here. this Reverend Carter, and they said, would you want to fly out here and talk about the book? And I said, of course I would. And we couldn't get it together. We wound up settling for Washington, D.C., and I did an episode called Angels and Aliens, and then I was told just maybe about 3 months ago, that they had taken a piece of that interview and put it on another show called Angels and Sacred Places. They're now on History Channel 2. Their season, they may be in the middle of one of their seasons, but they just said, listen, don't call us, we'll call you. Well, not in that way, but they just said, well, we need you. If we need you, we'll get back to you. So I have no plans on being on there again. Would like to, but haven't heard anything. Thanks for asking.
Well, that'd be good. I've seen the episode. It was a good episode.
Yeah, it's a great show. I mean, I don't subscribe to everything. Some of it, here's a person who's seen people from UFOs saying some of their shows are a little way out for me. I mean, what can be way out? But that they put these questions on the table, and then they get us to thinking outside the box, and that's the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's my opinion. That's the reason I do this talk show, is just to help open up people's minds and to make them think about different things.
Yeah, that's all you can do. And the rest is up to them.
Yeah, and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Well, WH, you got any more questions?
No, I think I'm good. I just had if you read through the Bible, some people will look at it, and if they're focusing on, well, let's find aliens in the Bible, they're just like, oh, they stand out. They make themselves known. They get right out there, and everybody knows that they're there. Maybe misinterpreted, if you want to call it that, when they describe them. But now it's like different. They're not, it's like they're picking on that farmer out in the field, or they're finding that one person in the city, or what, and it's not like a vast, massive amounts of people are seeing them and saying, yes, they're there. And, these days we probably wouldn't say they're gods, but then
because we have the technology as well.
Right.
And the other thing is that what's interesting is that we have the archetype of the alien now. It's the small, pear-headed gray with the wraparound eyes. But, when you're looking at the Bible, these beings look like human beings. I mean, they don't know. You can't tell. That when Abraham and when we're talking with Sodom and Gomorrah and Lot, the three men, I mean, he gets the cakes and the lambs out, and they eat, and he feeds them, so they're flesh and blood, they're eating food, but he knows enough to call them Lord. Now the Bible says that they're three messengers, so you can call them messengers, angels, but they eat. He feeds them. We're not told what makes them. How does he know? They use the word Lord, and of course, God sometimes is referred to in the Bible, not sometimes, as Lord. But he knows enough to know that these folks are different. They are different.
Yeah. There's something about them
they
that
eat
they
food,
can tell.
They walk up to him, but he could tell. Now they didn't have wings. I can tell you that. He didn't know because they had wings. And they sat down and ate. So my point is just that there's so many species. They're aliens that... I have a book here by a guy named Preston Bennett on UFO healings, and there's plenty of sketches in the book. I think his wife is an artist. My point is that there's a picture of an alien, if you will, using that word, who's giving someone a healing in a hospital room when the doctors leave, and he looks like today what we would call African American.
Right.
Okay, I mean he's a human being. So I mean it's they run the gamut. They can look like reptilians. They can look like grays. They can look like the praying mantis, and so on and so on.
Well, we're going to take a station ID for about 4 minutes, and I want everybody to remember we're simulcasting. This is Affinity.Jams, and we're simulcasting on freedomslips.com, and they're also on FM network now. So we want to welcome all them stations. There's about 6 of them that joined us, and we'll be right back after. Alright, I think it's back. It's saying 6 seconds into it. It ain't kicked. I don't know what's going on.
I'm listening in right now, so if you're getting a feedback, let me know.
Well, folks, I'm sorry about it. Keep kicking us. I'm not sure what's going on here. I guess we're putting out information people ain't wanting us to do. Usually this only happens when we have government guests on.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. You know what? I wanted to touch on something just very quickly, and this may lead back to what we were talking about before, about the appearances of angels. If we look in Hebrews 13, verse 2, it says, "Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some entertain angels unawares," which leads me to believe, again, that you could entertain an angel and they could look very human, but you don't know it. I mean, believe me, if someone had wings sprouting out of their coat or their jacket, you would go, something's different about this individual. But it says here in Hebrews to show hospitality, which is a very Jewish, ancient Jewish custom, is how do I treat my neighbor? How do I treat the stranger? And so by saying you may entertain angels without knowing it, again, leads to one to speculate that, or to come to the conclusion that you could walk by me on the street and I could see you and you could be an angel and me not knowing it. Again, meaning angel, meaning messenger.
Yeah, see, that's what bothers me about the Bible. A lot of the words, they don't take them back to their real meaning. When they did the conclave of 316, I think it was, they actually combined 3 different Bibles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't just one Bible, and they left out books, and there was 90 some books found with the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah.
I myself have checked out some of the interpretations of them, and they're really interesting, and I'm surprised that they even meddled with it at that time.
Well, you know, again, it's. I go back to the age-old, you know, again, what we have down with us, you know, like you said, books are being taken out. Again, if we're looking at the New Testament, and I'm just using that specifically, just the 4 Gospels, Jesus speaks Aramaic, and we're reading it in Greek. Tons of meanings are lost. Not just literal meaning in the words, but certain words may have several meanings in Aramaic. Customs, if you're not familiar with, are just dropped by the wayside. And so when people start taking everything literally, I mean, I know people who don't read any translation but the King James Bible. Now, that is Shakespearean English from the 16th century. 15th century. So, but they don't read anything else. And it makes Jesus and all these ancient Hebrews and other people of the ancient East, Near East, Far East, Middle East, they're speaking like they were born in England. And there's so much just lost there.
Yeah, I agree. Like the book of Enoch we were discussing earlier.
Yeah, that's a book you want to get if you don't already have it.
Shoot. What is your opinion on what would happen if they did agree to disclose that we're not alone in the universe? You think it'd have a devastating effect on
not at
the
all.
world?
No, I don't. I believe that well, especially now where you and I can have this conversation and people can call in and ask these fantastic questions because they've been reading about it themselves. So they're not going to be blown out of the water. They may even say about time. I do think that they need to come clean because there's going to be something that they can't explain away. I'm sure the governments are talking to each other because you don't want to have a UFO streak across one of our silos in Kansas, and we think that the Soviets have launched a missile attack, and then we fire. You don't want any kind of those mistakes going on. So there must be some dialogue going on. But I mean, as far as like what Mexico has done, what Canada is in the midst of doing with Ecuador and other Latin American countries in South America, that they are saying these things are real. And we're not so egotistical. Yes, we can control our airspace. There's something in our airspace, but these civilizations haven't crumbled. I just think it's more of a political, cultural reason, more so than I think that the old thing. What does it do for religion? Do they fear that people now they don't believe in God anymore, so now they'll run amok? Or what would that mean? Different ways of using our energy, different ways of using our technology that may not be that may cost that may put other businesses out of business, corporations out of business. I mean, imagine free energy. I mean, these people must know something about energy, man. They got ships that do these acrobatics. Okay, and I mean, just
literally fly around ours, huh?
Disappear, come and go. But I mean, I just think. But what would that do to Mobil, Exxon? What would that do to British Petroleum? What would that do to our stock markets?
Yeah, I hear that.
And so there's just too much money to be made. What if someone said, cancer? No problem. We can work it out. There's a lot of money being paid on cancer research.
Yeah, I hear that.
All that money stops.
And all pharmaceuticals.
Oh, it stops. We don't need it.
That would be something.
Yeah. So in some ways, human beings, in general, we're not ready yet spiritually for that leap. Now, that's not to say that we won't be. Maybe in my lifetime, maybe not. But right now, we're not there yet because we're still worried about those things. Not what's going to be good for the planet, not what's going to be good for our community and society, what's going to be good for me.
Right. I agree with that. Most people think that.
What's going to be good for me? What's in it for me?
I want to take you back to your childhood a little bit.
Okay.
You saw orbs and auroras around people when you were young.
I still do.
Still do?
I thought it was natural. Yeah. My mom has, she doesn't like the word psychic, it scares her, but she's extremely intuitive, as was my great-grandmother, who used to do readings to make extra money at times. But yeah, I see the human energy field. I do not remember a time when I didn't. And that was before Reiki, that was before visitations. Some people have different, Paul talks about gifts. That's one of mine. I can see the human energy field. And so I can watch people's energy.
I didn't know you had my lighter. Get
little clues about how they're feeling. If they're fatigued, they're tired, their mental states, those kinds of things. And now that I meditate more and that I pray more, it becomes a little more enhanced. It became a little more enhanced after after the visitations. But yeah, I've always had that.
Well, that's different. I myself don't see.
I was just looking up to see if I could find anything on the next question up. Actually, Ahmad.
I was talking with the mute on. so I was talking.
Oh my goodness.
I'd like to know.
It's all good, brother. It's all good.
Do you think possibly the human race could be headed for a single collective consciousness of some sorts? That we could be evolving that way?
Great. I think we are. And again, it's very subjective. I'll give you two brothers an example. Now, I don't know what's going on in your life. I've been meeting more and more people, friends and people I'm just meeting, who are saying, you know what? I don't know what's going on. Sometimes it's relational. It could be, with spouses or girlfriends or boyfriends, what have you. Stuff about job stuff. But I'm meeting more and more people who are saying, you know what? I want to do something more to give back. I want to do something more. I work at a hospital. I've met several doctors. 2 of them I know, 2 of them I didn't know, that are talking about, I make good money. I kind of like what I'm doing, but I want to do something more. I just don't know what it is yet. I'm meeting people who are saying, you know, I'm leaving my job. I want to find something more fulfilling, whether that's a relationship, job, or whatever. I believe that's what 2012 is going to be about. I don't think that the Mayan calendar, which has many interpretations, no, I don't think on the equinox in December of this year we're going to be barbecued or flooded. I'm not saying we won't have earth changes and what have you, but people are seeking something more fulfilling, a deeper consciousness of what is not only good for me, but what's going to be good for community. What's going to be good for the planet? What's going to be good as far as how we can get together? Now, you see it with this Wall Street movement. Yes, it's flawed because it's human beings, but what people are talking about is equity. How can we be more equitable in our resources? What do you hear people talking about with Obama's health care plan, whether you agree with it or not? But they are saying there are people here who are not a human right is to be able to have some type of health care. Now, how we do it, people disagree on. But that's a whole change in consciousness. That's a whole change in consciousness. And there's just a lot of that. Right now, people are talking about Mitt Romney and his wealth, or you know, the lack thereof. We couldn't have that conversation 5 years ago. But people are saying, how can these resources be distributed equitably? Something has shifted. No, it may not be the biggest shift in the world, but those three things. I mean, my God, look, we got a president of color in the White House. I'm only 55 years old. I never thought I'd see that as a person of color. Something has shifted.
Yeah.
But people are looking for a bigger picture. Whether it's healthcare, you know, whether it's money, you know, economics. How can we do this better where more people are included?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I see it with these radio stations that I work with, like Affinity.jams and FreedomSlips.com. We all coming together, and the internet has made a big difference in the world, and the long run. I believe it's been the most useful tool mankind has ever created. It just needs to be used the right way.
I mean, it's made the world smaller. And you're going to see more of this. You're going to see more. I predict you're going to see more people finding complementary ways of healing. I mean, where it's going to be mainstream. Now, that may happen 3-5 years from now. But something is changing that human beings, in general, I'm not saying everybody, are saying, how can we come together more? Are we going to have wars and rumors of wars? You better believe it. But we also hear people saying that this has got to stop. We're going to destroy ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now,
more concerted effort. There's more racial harmony. Yes, there's racism and bigotry, and it's always going to be around to greater or lesser degrees. But you see more people intermarrying than ever before, just in this country. Something has shifted. And for those who have been raised a certain way, that's very, very scary. But it's changing, and every end is a new beginning.
Amen.
Every end is a new beginning.
All right, we're going to stop and take our last break of the show, and it's a little over 3 minutes, and we'll be right back, folks. Welcome back, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show so far. We got Reverend Michael Carter with us, and his website is www.michaeljscarter.com, and you can get his book there. His book is entitled Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible, and it is extremely interesting. And I'll get, what were we talking about right at the end of the break? Do you remember, Cop?
Oh, off the top of my head, no. What I was going to interject there real quick is I'm up next, live on air at the end of the Ahmad show, and I'll be followed by JoJo. I meant to let you know that. I just found out JoJo just messaged me and said he needed to switch from his 3 to 6 to 6 to 9 with me, so there you go. You get the handoff right to me. It's just going to go from this to music.
Wow.
Well, at least I know who it is. I've been sitting here wondering.
Well, the new schedule will be posted shortly, so it's going to be kind of crazy over the next couple of days. We had a DJ leave the station, so of course we got to cover the shifts that she was doing, and that makes changes. So change is good.
Just to let everybody know that we're at AffinityJams.com, and we're simulcasting on freedomslips.com, and both stations are user supported. So if y'all get a chance to donate $1, kick it in at that donation site.
Well, I think we're about to switch to one of the next questions, which was that you posted here from somebody. I just see part of it.
It's
UFOs,
from a private chat.
Yeah, why do you think UFOs appear to be connected to the birth of religious figures like Christ and Buddha?
Great question, and I think we touched on it a little bit, guys, when we talked about the help, assistance, if you will. There are times in human history, I think, that we needed a jump start, that maybe humankind was going maybe astray, that kind of thing. But I think, and you notice that they're in close parts of the world. Buddha, of course, born 500 years before Jesus. But I think that it also is a way of saying just how special these people were. I mean, there's talk of signs in the sky when Buddha was born, aerial phenomenon, being born of a virgin, those types of things. And so, were they true? I don't know. But if we look at that, it also goes to show us people are just trying to say, man, these people were so earth-shattering. Their very presence, their teachings, their sense of self, their spirituality was so awesome that the very elements seem to be affected by their mere presence. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Okay, that does have a lot to do with it. I just pulled up something quick here that on the Eastern beliefs, Buddhism, regarding both Buddha and Jesus, that basically it looks like the three wise men were sent to teach Jesus some things from Buddha. That's their belief. That's hence the three wise men coming from the East.
Right. I've heard that one was from Persia, one was from one was from Persia specifically. Of course, Zoroastrianism was one of the religious and spiritual beliefs at that time. But definitely, if they're coming from, which lends credence to Jesus visiting there between the ages of 12 and 30. Maybe to say, hey, remember me? You came to when I was born. I'm just using imagination here, but even these brothers from the East are seeing this child is special. There's something unique about this individual, and so we come to pay homage. We come to perhaps teach him our secrets, or when he's old enough, he can come to us. He can come to Egypt. He can come to Persia. He can come to Tibet, etc., etc.
And there's a possibility, from what I've seen, that he could have for them missing years.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to refute it. I mean, Saint Isa born in Bethlehem, goes stays there till 12, goes to Tibet, goes studies there with lamas and all studies Eastern religions, comes back to the Middle East at the age of 30, is crucified, and of course there's also the stories of him surviving that crucifixion. Very strong. That's another show, another time, but very strong indications that may have been the case. I mean, Saint Isa's story in Tibet is the exact same story of Jesus.
Exactly.
Same story of Jesus.
Right.
One of the things I just found here too on that same page is many of the parables and stories found later in Christianity are taken directly from Buddhism.
Yes, they are.
Including the parable of the mustard seed, the story of the prodigal son, the
and
Sermon
you can buy
on the
that
Mount.
book. You're right. There's a book called The Sayings of Jesus and Buddha, and I'm saying this respectfully for those hardcore Christians who can get nervous. When you read the sayings, it looks like Jesus plagiarized. But pick up the book. It does. It does. I mean, it does. Now remember, this man is 500 years before Jesus, and so there's wisdom, and there's this man is gleaning. Maybe, in my house are many mansions. Maybe that's another way of saying not only are there other planets, but there are also other schools of learning. We know he was in Egypt. We know Egypt was a great learned society of the day. I mean, when they flee from Herod, where do they go? They go to Egypt, which means he must have looked like the Egyptians of the time, or else he couldn't have been hidden there.
Right.
So he flees to Egypt. They flee to Egypt.
On that link I just posted,
yeah.
The child would have been 2 years of age at the time and in danger from Herod, who received prophecies of an Essene leader born who would challenge Roman rule.
Yes.
An Essene Buddhist-type monastery existed at Kuan Ran near the caves that later housed the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Right. As
a mystical order, possibly even a Buddhist order, the Essenes were aware of these prophecies, and Essene teachings include concepts of reincarnation and karma, the immortality of the soul, etc., etc.
And reincarnation's in the Bible.
Sounds pretty Middle East, doesn't it?
That's where they believed that Jesus was hidden during that time that Herod was looking for him.
Yeah, I mean, we know he went to Egypt. We know that.
The child was raised and trained first in Egypt, then in India, with access to Buddhist, Mahayana, and Vajrayana training. He returned to Jerusalem as an adult, a Buddhist adept, and a Reiki healer known as the Savior.
Yeah.
And all those properties, according to this posting I put in, were learned from Buddha or that Buddhist group. Yeah.
I mean, these are again, it's all speculation, but there's a lot of evidence that points to it.
Yeah, I find that interesting myself, that he could have studied Buddhism too.
I came across something else too that, and I lost the page by accident, but it states that the graves of Mary Magdalene and one of his disciples are located in India.
Yeah, there's also a wonderful book about him being in Afghanistan. Well, it's written by an Afghan. But I mean, these are this is knowledge that's coming up now. All will be revealed, and I just want to make sure that we're not telling people you have to believe this, but just know that this information is out there, and so it is worth looking into. Maybe a very different Jesus that you know and love than what you thought.
Yeah, we don't try and change people's minds. We just show them the facts that we find and let them make up their own mind.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Sort of like these stations we're on, our opinions and what we're talking about ain't necessarily what this station believes.
Yeah.
A little disclaimer in there anyway.
Yeah, oh yeah.
A lot of this came about from a 19th century Japanese man who sought the origins of Jesus and the Buddhist method of healing. And he found the ancient remnants of Shiva's early culture and the esoteric teachings of India.
Gotcha.
So that's where that information was gleaned from.
Yeah.
So somebody in the 1800s decided to go back and say, hey, wait a minute. Why are there so many resemblances between the life of Buddha and the life of historical Jesus?
Yes.
One from 620 to 543 BCE, the other from 7 BCE.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, now this all makes kind of a little bit of sense that, hey, maybe he was taught by them and moved to that area to hide him from Herod, who was trying to deny the prophecy.
Yeah.
It does fall in lines now. I got a question for you about the Nephilim. Do you think the Nephilim have interbreed with us and that we are actually part
well, it says in the Bible. It says in the Bible that they did interbreed with women, the Nephilim. Now there is talk that we are all children of the stars. That there is some DNA. I have not explored this. That there's some DNA in every human being that cannot be explained.
Right. We have a gene that can't.
That cannot be explained. I think that we are. I think that our origin is from the stars. You have the Hopi, you have some Cherokee, you have many, but not all, but many Native American First Nations people talking about their origins from the stars. You have the Hopi talking about the Pleiades, some of the Aboriginal folk in Australia talking about coming from different star systems. And this is ancient knowledge, ancient wisdom. So I do believe that. I don't know if it's strictly Nephilim. Remember, because the offspring from the Nephilim became giants.
Right.
But I would venture to say that we are that DNA is there.
Well, what if they weren't physical giants but mental giants? Extremely intelligent.
Well, they could be. The Bible does specifically say that they're physical, so maybe they were both. But they were definitely physical. And mental giants, I mean, from what we understand, these beings are light years ahead of us, I mean, intellectually. Between the technology, being able to appear and reappear, going through solid walls. I mean, they're using all of their brain capacity, but we only use 10%.
Right.
So in many ways, they are more intelligent. Some of them say we don't have wars where we come from. So obviously there's a spiritual aspect that we've yet to achieve. So at least on a figurative level, they are certainly giants intellectually. But we know that physically, according to Genesis, that they were giants.
Oh, yes, I misquoted myself there. I meant to say not only physical giants, but mental giants, and I just misstated myself.
I think that could be stated very easily.
Well, all of them down the East Coast, they've found skeletons of giants, so we know they did exist at one time, and they've found them overseas too in different places.
And I'm looking at John, the book of John, chapter 10, verse 34, when Jesus is talking to some people, and he says, "Is it not written in your law that I have said that you are gods?" And if he called them gods because the word of God was with them and the scripture cannot be broken, again, that you are, and I forget what psalm it is, but that ye are gods and children of the Most High, we are. Now, and it could also mean that maybe we are not gods per se, we're gods with a small g, but we can be God-like with our ability to co-create.
Another 15
with our ability to use our minds more and in different ways, because we create our lives by what we believe. If you wake up every day and you say, boy, life is tough, and then you die, that's what life's going to show you. You can wake up every day and say, here's another day, this is a great adventure, and that's what life will show you. So we do co-create our lives by what we believe and how we perceive.
Yes, sir.
That's a very powerful way of being.
I believe our consciousness does affect reality.
Yes. Well, quantum physics is telling us that, but here you have Jesus and Buddha and other saints and sages who knew this 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,000 years ago. We're just getting it.
I have a statement that was put into one of our chat rooms. It says the Greek gods of old are really offspring of the Nephilim and the Nephilim themselves. What do you think of this?
I think it's a probability. I mean, these Greek gods were based on, at least their characteristics, were based on other gods that have come from the sky. But even then, what I want to throw in there is this. Look how those gods fought each other. They made love. They slept with other people's. I mean, they were very human. So they may have been gods with their technology and with their powers, but they were also very human because they were fighting each other. They were sleeping with each other. They were selfish and nasty to one another. So they were so very human.
So it was the Jersey Shores all over, huh?
Let me tell you, it's I mean, come on. It's, you know, they were gods, but yet they had the same foibles and stuff. I mean, listen, the Nephilim came and slept with women. So that means they got horny. That means they loved the pleasures of the flesh. They loved wine. They loved women. They loved song. I mean, so what is so different about them?
They had emotions, didn't they?
They had emotions, except that they also touched into other parts of themselves, a deeper consciousness.
Yeah.
sex. You can't do that. You're not spiritual. But how do we as human beings use the balance? Jesus was called a wine bibber. He come out with the dregs of society. Doesn't take away from him if you think he's God. The thing is how do I become both? How do I use all of me? How do I become a more authentic and real human being? It's not either or, in my humble opinion. It's both and.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. What I did find on that is that the Nephilim, the fallen angels, Flavius Joseph spoke of them, an ancient Jewish historian.
Yeah, Josephus.
Yes. What he wrote is their talk on the descendants straying from the paths of their forefathers, but in the process of time they were perverted and forsook the practices of their forefathers and did neither pay those honors to God which were appointed to them, nor had any concern to do justice towards men.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what one ancient historian has to say about them.
Yeah, that's what Josephus says.
Exactly.
You know, and it's wonderful to have that other perspective, and also know that it's another perspective. You know, it's like reading the Bible, and you know you want to hear the Bible says, if the Bible says something in any book, well, men shouldn't wear long hair. Well, Paul said that men should be ashamed wearing long hair. Well, okay, what does that mean? That means people who wear long hair, and Paul was against it. It means that Jesus probably did not have the long hair, because Paul, being a proponent of Jesus, a great follower, starting a new religion, if you will, if it was shameful for men to have long hair, surely he would not have said that if Jesus had. So it's also good to know what other people are saying, not only just to have that perspective, but it gives you a clue to what was going on during the time. And Josephus is a historian. The Nephilim were alive, were visiting planet Earth many, many hundreds and thousands of years before Josephus was even here. But there you have his, his perspective.
Okay, folks, I hate to bring it to an end, but it's about over with. And I want to thank everybody that has come on. Remember, people.
Fantastic.
Remember, people. We're at AffinityJams.com and FreedomSlips.com, and I guess Cop's taken over after I quit here at Affinity. I'm not sure what Hawk's got planned over there at Freedom Slips, but Michael, I'd like to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yes.
And
I thank the callers for the question.
We got a couple minutes. Would you like to sum up? We'd love to have you back someday.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy. It'd be my pleasure. Yeah, I just want to sum up by saying, first of all, thank you for your time, and thank you for your questions and just your insights, and just to keep your eyes open and go check out some of these things. Of course, decide for yourself, and just keep growing spiritually as much as you can. And as a friend of mine always says, another UFO buff, keep looking up.
Keep looking up.
Keep looking up.
Well, thank you, Weisenberg, for joining us and the question you had.
You're welcome.
You got another one you want to ask him real quick? He's got about 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm just listening.
All right. What about you, Copper?
Well, real quick, they were asking, we were talking about the Nephilim. Well, I did find, and I posted in our chat and in Skype, so that you can post in the other one, is www.greatdeeds.com, Replin, and it actually shows photos where in Greece they have found those same pictures of, or skeletal remains of those giants, and they have them posted at that website. So this has been very informative for me, and I have loved every minute of it, and I wouldn't mind being on with him again.
Yeah, I'd love it. Let's do it.
Okay, thank you, folks. We're going to throw in a song, and when you come back, it's going to be Copper on controls. Thank you all for joining. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah.